You are listening to This is Oklahoma, hosted by Mike Hearn, telling stories of Oklahomans and those that have made it their home.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma Podcast. Mike Hearn here, your host, back with another episode. Excited to share this episode with you today, but before we do, I've got to thank our sponsors. First of all, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. They've been a huge part of this podcast for the last few years. So the Oklahoma Hall of Fame have been sharing Oklahoma's story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com. And for daily updates, go to oklahomahof on Instagram and give them a follow. Our other sponsor today is Chickasaw Nation. Now, the Chickasaw Nation have sponsored pretty much everything in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma. And it's an honor to have their name and their brand supporting this podcast. A huge shout out to Governor Anatobi for supporting this podcast. It really means a lot. Our third sponsor is Diffie Ford Lincoln down in El Reno. Now, this one makes me so happy because these guys are great friends of mine, play a lot of golf together. I've bought my cars from them, do most of my oil changes down there, have a cup of coffee, hang out down in El Reno. It's a good spot to go. And not only are they great friends, but they provide a great service. So for over 60 years, third generation family owned Oklahoma business down in El Reno. They're also in Bethany as well. So people in the Bethany area know the Diffies really well. But if you're looking for anything new, used, Ford, Lincoln, or whatever, I'm sure they could find anything you want. Check them out, diffieford.net, and then on Instagram at diffiefordlincoln. This podcast is brought to you by the Oklahoma Beef Council. On behalf of Oklahoma's 50,000 beef farming and ranching families, we are working hard every day to bring high-quality beef to your table. To learn more, visit oklabeef.org. That's oklabeef.org, linked below. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma. Mike Hearn here, host, back with another episode. Today we are at the residence of Mr. Talor Gooch, back on the podcast after a couple of years. Excited to dive into, the last 2 years has been pretty life-changing for you, so a lot's changed. You've had a beautiful baby daughter, and you've got another one on the way off the golf course, but obviously on the golf course, most people know about that stuff. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, first of all, mate, congratulations. It's been an insane couple of years for you, right?
Yeah, that's one way to describe it. It's it's been a lot of change and a lot of good stuff, a lot of craziness, a lot of chaos, but yeah, it's been a lot of good golf as well.
Yeah. I think I was on the range. We were at the golf club at the same time you were practicing on the range, and my dad was in town. And I just kind of looked over, and you're on the range, and your phone was running off, just blowing up. I think it was the day that I guess you'd announced, or it had come out that everyone was going to live, or the guys were going to live and stuff, and then it was all announced. And I brought my dad over to see you, and you're like, "Yeah, my phone hasn't stopped ringing. This is crazy." And obviously, you made a great decision for yourself. You made a decision for your family, for the rest of your legacy and the rest of your life, and that's something that I respect. It's in the position that I was in growing up, I would have done the same thing. So, and a lot of people say they wouldn't have, but maybe those people have grown up with money and whatever it is, I think. And obviously you've, gone on to play great golf, and that's something that hasn't faltered. Whereas some of the guys maybe have not played great golf, and, you can look at whatever the stats are. But mate, it's been great to kind of watch you just dominate world golf, from the live perspective around the world, and see your life change, right? And have your wife there with you, Collins and Mike, obviously the team, and the foundation kick off after that, and the great things you're doing with the Oklahoma Golf Association, and then to have an Oklahoma home event, right, at Cedar Ridge. And I know it wasn't a great week, the weather wasn't great, the golf course struggled because the weather wasn't great, but I think it seemed like from the fan perspective, everyone loved it.
Yeah. It's funny, we were talking about it recently. My worst tournament personally of the season, worst finish was that week in Tulsa, and I think it might have had in part to do with everything that was going on that week. It was with the foundation, and just with feeling like it was a home event with family and friends, and trying to help make sure the week went great. It was an amazing week, and it was an amazing week in spite of the very average golf. But yeah, it's been such obviously, like I said, and we'll continue to probably say it a bunch, it's been a crazy year. And ever since I saw you the day when I said the phone hasn't stopped, that's still is happening. The phone's going crazy, but again, it's all good stuff, and it's really cool to use this time in a way to help others. To not only has this been this change been a incredible blessing to me and my family and future generations, but people outside of just my family, we're trying to make a difference, and it's been crazy.
Yeah. Well, let's get it out of the way now, so we don't have to beat around the bush and figure it out later. Was it what was this year? Was it 37.5 million total this year?
Yeah, something around there.
I just saw the picture of you and Victor on golf, whatever it was, and it was like Victor at 30 whatever. Two Oklahoma State Cowboys that just dominated golf this year. Yeah. Obviously, everyone talks to you about that. I don't really want to talk to you about too much, but it's something that, like you just said, the things that you can do with that. It's not like you are just you're not doing. You're not being selfish with it, right? Like, your foundation's kicking off. You're having great events. I'm sure you've got so much more in the pipeline. Like, I'm excited to find out what the foundation stuff is coming. I have just been. It hasn't been publicized yet, but I'm now on the board for the Oklahoma Golf Association. So
awesome!
Pumped for that.
Yeah, awesome.
And I'm sure that's something that we can work towards and work together on in the future, because obviously you're big in the junior game in that.
Yeah, for sure.
But when that money hits the bank account, or you see that money in the bank account, as someone who grew up playing John Conrad, Midwest City, quote in quotes, like middle class, normal kid, not a country club kid with silver spoon like some of these people, that grow up, whose golf's very expensive out here. I mean, talk me through that.
Yeah, no, it's unfathomable, truthfully. I remember my rookie year on the PGA Tour, talking with my caddy. We played a lot of practice rounds my rookie year with Charles Howell, and obviously extremely successful and a long, fruitful career on the PGA Tour. And I remember playing with him thinking, because at the time he was about to surpass like $40 million on career earnings. I just remember thinking, golly, that is so much money. That is such success, prolonged. And that is just, it's crazy. And we were talking about it recently, my caddy and I, we were like, it's crazy to think that, at that point in time, it seemed so far so far away to have that type of financial success on the golf course. And it's just crazy that it's now happened as quickly as it has. And so, obviously very grateful, and God has been so good to us, but it's like you said, it's been cool because not only for me and my family, but for the difference we're going to make with junior golf in Oklahoma, the difference we're going to continue to make with Hope is Alive and Positive Tomorrows. And, obviously we love Life Church and, our support of the church and everything. So, it's super cool. Also, of course, I can't talk about it without also saying it's fun to be able to do stuff I never thought I would be able to do, like get a new 911. Or not new, a used one, but I was laughing. I almost texted Victor Hovland the other day because I'm sure you saw where someone was like, what'd you do with your money this year? And he was like, I took my mom on a trip, and I was like, I mean, that's awesome. That's super cool, and that's part of what is so endearing about Javi is like, he's so simple and not a flashy dude and doesn't care about a lot of materialistic things. And I almost texted him when I saw that and said, dude, you gotta go do something. Like, do a little something. Go get your cars. Do something. So, it's funny.
I mean, for him, it's like hiring his favorite death metal band just for a private concert, right? Do something like that. But yeah, I mean, it's great to have those experiences, and like you said, you're able to do things that you dreamt of doing, right? And going and doing that and doing it with the family, and giving your family the experiences and paying, giving back to your parents. Like, I mean, I grew up playing golf, and the sacrifices that my parents made, like for the first time this year, I took my dad to the Masters, and like for me, that was like the biggest thing ever to take him and see, and But, obviously you get to do that on a huge scale now, which is super awesome. But what are those things then? What are those bucket list stuff that you want? Obviously you crossed off the 911. That's a recent purchase. And and I honestly, I was surprised it took you that long to buy one, but you didn't wait for the right one.
Yeah. Man, the new house that we've just built, being able to, go about it in a way that we wanted to, that was huge, to build the kind of the forever home, if you will. Other than that, just having that comfort, from a financial stability perspective, it's obviously changed things drastically. And so, I don't really know if there's really a whole lot of other bucket lists. I may not be as simple as Vic is, but I like a car, I like a watch, I like some nice wine, but that hasn't changed. So I don't know.
Yeah. I mean that when you basically get given, or earn, not given, it's definitely the wrong word for it. When you earn, at the level that you have, and knowing that you can do anything you want now, sometimes it takes away like the specialness of I'm working towards this, and now like working towards buying the 911 or working towards buying a watch or whatever, right? And I'm sure there's times where you might have found that I need to find something that brings me purpose, and I know you, and I know that is family and the foundation.
Everything that's happened has just created more opportunity. And it's, when you say be a part of something, I love my family, obviously. Like I love this state, and I want to continue to try to do right by the state and to push things forward, and that's kind of where it's, in a weird way, it's like I want to be, a part of what the future of Oklahoma looks like in a very positive way. And that's kind of where my mind is shifted and focused in a different way than just making birdies, because of course I still have so much I want to do from a golf perspective, but the platform that this has now given me, it makes me see my future in a different way. And I see my future in being a part of Oklahoma on a bigger scale and bigger level. And I want to start setting up, opportunities that are coming about now, so that when the birdies are done, when I'm not just golfing for a living anymore, like what's that next phase of life look like, and how do I, have a balance now of still working my tail off and trying to be the best golfer I can be, but trying to utilize opportunities that are now given to me or that have come about, like take advantage of those, so that when the birdies are done, then what's the next step?
Yeah. I mean, and there's the great thing is you got, good people around you that can help you with that. But also, you've got not just close to you, but you've got all these examples of, golf isn't something you can play. I mean, it is something you play forever, but if you have income coming in from other sources, like takes the pressure off golf, you can enjoy golf. I listened to a podcast with Podrick Harrington recently, and he's like, now I stay in the best hotels, even if they're an hour away, because I want a good night's sleep. I don't worry about going out to dinner, and I just enjoy golf now, right? Whereas he's like, in the past, he was grinding, eating, never eating cheat meals, and obviously he's a 3-time major champion. He's kind of worked his ass off, and he's earned that. So that's a good way to put it. By
the way, I played with Padre at the Open this year.
Yeah.
And
he's got speed, right?
Dude, he bombs it for an old man. Like, it was so impressive. And obviously he's still, a 3-time major champion. He's one of the, best players, especially over in Europe over the last, 25 years. And so it was super cool to play with him, in an Open championship. Yeah. But it was just cool too, because it's inspirational to see these guys that, like, he's had a great career. He doesn't have to continue to strive to be great, but he's still striving to be great, and that's super cool to see.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. Tell me about the Open then. Was that the second one you've played in? Because this year it was brutal, right?
Oh, it was brutal. The third one. Yeah, it was the third one
Okay.
because my first one was when Collins was born.
That's right.
Yeah.
I remember. That's when we did the podcast.
Yes.
I think around the time.
Yes. No, it was, man, the golf course and the conditions. It was tough. The last couple I played, decent in. I finished like 30th in the one at, I think, Royal St. George's, and then last year at St. Andrews for the 150th, which was super, super special. I played well there. Actually, aside from about a 3-hole stretch on Saturday, I probably would have been in the thick of things. I ended up finishing, 25th or 30th. I can't remember, something around there. But, and then this year I missed the cut, and that golf course just whooped my butt. So it was obviously, anytime you play an Open Championship, it's my favorite tournament to play. Like, of all of them, it's the coolest feel. I compare it to Augusta from a sense of like, so those are the two best tournaments we play, I think, in my opinion. One, Augusta is so pristine and perfect and flawless, and it's so impressive how they go about that. But then almost on the opposite side of the spectrum is the Open, where it's like, it's raw and it's real and it's imperfect, but it's like, there's something endearing and like enticing about, not only the fans, but the golf course and everything, that just says like, we're not going to try to be perfect. We love what we are, and we hope you love it. Here, come enjoy it. And so to me, that's why it's my favorite, because it's like, it's perfectly imperfect, and there's a rawness to it that's just unlike anything else that we experience. And then obviously the fans are it's an experience unlike really anything else, that it's just super special.
Yeah. And then this year you got Harmon winning with Scott on the bag, who's an Oklahoman,
Yeah.
which is kind of cool. And
Super
it's
cool.
funny seeing them stand next to each other, because Scott's like 7 feet tall.
Yeah, correct.
But no, yeah, the weather was horrendous. It was a true Open, right? Because in the past, I think you haven't really had bad weather in the two you've played in, right?
Yeah, it's been decent. Yeah.
And this one was just like, we're going to throw everything at you.
Yeah.
And then the Senior Open a week later was bad too, because that was in Wales, and they were just getting destroyed out there. It was actually fun to watch.
Yeah.
Anyway, but you mentioned the Masters. I mean, it's perfect, obviously, and
Was that your first time?
First time, yeah. For me,
so
I
cool.
couldn't believe, obviously, how steep 10 is, how steep 18 is. I couldn't believe how, 7 green's not deep at all, right? 7 green is tiny.
Tiny.
Yeah, I mean, it just, it was super emotional walking on the property, just like, this is insane. Right?
Oh.
This is it. This is perfect.
It's funny. I often, not often, but it's happened numerous times where we'll be on the course, players and caddies, and we talk about, what's the best place, what's the best tournament, what's the best course, and I always argue that my standpoint is Augusta is the most iconic place. While my favorite tournament is the Open, Augusta is the most iconic, and it's because the Open moves year to year. Like Augusta, it's the same thing year after year, right? And it's like, I remember my first time playing it on Friday. I'm walking down 11 fairway with my caddy Mal, and I just kind of sat there and I looked around, because I think that's the place that when you think of Augusta, you don't think of 18. You think of Amen's Corner, you think of 11, 12, 13. When you're walking down 11 fairway and there's no fans in that spot on the golf course, and so you kind of feel like you're on your own, and you see 12 tee, 12 green, 13 fairway, you just see it all right there, and it's that's the view that holy crap, this is Augusta. I remember, Tiger making birdie there. I remember Zach Johnson laying up there and making birdie. You remember all these things that as a kid, I grew up watching. It's dude, it's just when you said it got you emotional, it's there's just something special and just so cool about that place.
Yeah, it's bucket list, isn't it? I mean, even just everyone's got to experience it once.
Yep.
You mentioned your caddy, Mal. It's Australian, right? Mm-hmm. How did, I don't think we talked about this last time. How did that come about? How'd you meet? And then, what's it been like having him on the bag for, the last few years?
So, Harold Varner was on PGA Tour Corn Ferry. He was a year ahead of me. So, in 2016 is when I got my played on the web.com tour, now Corn Ferry. And I didn't have a full-time caddy until that year. And so I was looking to get a full-time caddy, and Harold, it's one of my, best buddies. And I call him and I'm like, hey, do you have anyone that you know? Can you help me out here? And his caddy at the time was an Aussie, and all the Aussie caddies, like there's a bunch of them, and they kind of, all know each other. And sure enough, his caddy, Ray, was like, hey, one of my mates is looking for a bag right now. Let's connect y'all. And we went and played a round of golf and just hit it off. And, now 7 years later.
What's it been like taking Mal with, to live, and how that's different from PJ Tour and just as the caddies? Because it seems like they really take care of everybody.
Oh, dude, it's
right.
Yeah,
it's such a different atmosphere anyway.
Yeah, right. No, you often hear the term caddy's dream, like live for everyone, but especially for the caddies, like it's so different than what the PGA Tour was. So yeah, it's been fantastic and just cool because, kind of that old school way of thinking of like caddies are, second class citizens almost is the old way of thinking to, this new age in the last 10, 15 years that, their caddies are more a part of the team than what they previously were. And that's very much how I feel. And, it's cool to have Liv, and all credit to Greg Norman on it, because he kind of heads that of we're going to have everyone's part of this team. There's no one that's, better or worse, that like we're all in this together. And, so it's been great it's little things, like each week there's player dining. And it's cool that now that player dining isn't just players. It's, your coach, your caddy, your trainer, your team gets, access to the same places. And not only is it good to have everyone feel appreciated and welcomed, but from a logistics perspective, it's like, for me, I'm like, okay, I'm leaving dining. I got to call my caddy and ask him like, hey, let's go meet up. And it's just all those little like differences that have helped impact. And I think part of why, I've thrived within Live is because of that. It's logistically for me and my caddy and trainer and coach and everyone, like we're all in this together. We're all a team, and it's streamlined things within Live logistically that have kind of helped just make things easier and better for us.
Yeah. Talk to me about the training side of things. Obviously, we're recording in your simulator room right now, but right next to us is your home gym. So tell me about and I remember seeing you this summer and, just kind of catching up on the back of the range, and you're like, I'm about to go do some speed stuff. So, I wouldn't say that you're a small hitter, right? Compared to a lot of the guys, but tell me through the training side of things and why that is important just to you and your game.
Yeah. I mean, so right out of school, out of college, I dealt with some back injuries my first couple years as a pro, and it kind of held me back. And I think that's part of why I kind of got off to a slow start as a pro. And so my trainer, Colby Toulier, works with a bunch of dudes, both PGA Tour and Live and everyone in between, and a bunch of other athletes in different sports, baseball and football. And I think he's, one of the best in the game. And, ever since getting with him, I've, knock on wood, I've been, pretty dang healthy, which obviously in any sport, you got to be healthy to make progress and to have a great career. And so, all credit to him for being able to get my body in a spot to be healthy on a week-to-week basis. The grind of traveling week to week, different states, different countries, different beds, different facilities, it's something we take very seriously from a training perspective to make sure each and every week, my body is in a good spot, that I'm healthy and feeling good and performing highly. And so, it's kind of at the core of everything that we do is the training aspect, and so hopefully this off season too, the next few months I need to hit it like 10 or 15 yards longer. If I can get another 10 or 15 yards, I'm not trying to hit it like Bryson. I'll never be able to hit it like Bryson, but if I could gain a little bit of speed, it would make a difference.
Yeah, I mean, he's dedicated, obviously, and dedicated a lot of his time and everything he did to hitting it that far, and you can definitely, you can tell. For you then to hit it the extra 15 for the golf sickos out there, is it, like longer driver? Is it ball speed? Is it just, I mean, what is it that is the focus? I mean, everyone's probably thinking speed sticks and rotation. And I remember one thing you said to me the last time we recorded was, you're kind of better having a little bit more, I can't remember if you just said like fat was the word, but just like, golfers aren't ripped, right? And that ripped brings injuries and all that stuff. So having a little cushion was like a good thing. But tell me about that. Like how we can dive into the specifics of you, like, what is the workout regime to help you build, I guess, club head speed?
Obviously rotational strength, power, speed, that's everything, right? You don't have to be the biggest or strongest to be able to hit it the furthest. Look at what Rory does. Rory's built very differently than what Bryson is. Like Bryson's a big dude, and he's got tons of speed, but Rory's not a big dude and he's got tons of speed. And so, there's so much science now behind, the golf swing and the training of golfers that I think it's pretty easy to go and see, kind of what the formula is for gaining speed. But I think to break it down simply, you got to get stronger, you got to get faster in the gym, and that is a myriad of things. And then I think you just got to train speed with a club in your hand, and there's, different ways to do that. And, I don't know what it is for me because I've never really done speed training before. So I'm excited the next couple of months to try to get a little bit more speed and see if we can, figure out how to hit it a little bit further.
Yeah, I'm going to do the same thing too. I went up to see Steven at Indoor 18 for an hour and just kind of like, I need to set my baseline, hit it as hard as I can, get my numbers. And so I did that the other day. And
cool.
I'm like, okay, these are my numbers now. Now it gives me full winter and we'll see where we're at, February, January, whenever it is next year that we can, and keep obviously, once a month, just checking in.
Yeah.
But, and everybody just wants to hit it further, right? Your ego is just like, I just want to hit. I just want to outdrive all my buddies. I don't care. I don't care where it goes off the planet. If I hit 1 out of 10 that goes, 350, I'm going to be happy and speak about it for the rest of my life. You mentioned, obviously, you traveled a lot. This golf, tour is taking you probably to countries you didn't think you'd go to, or golf courses or places you didn't think you'd go to. Tell me a little bit about that. What's that been like, going to certain places? I mean, you were in Hong Kong, a couple of weeks ago, and I mean, that looks one of the most fascinating places to go. What's that been like?
I love food. I love wine. I love all of that world. And so that's one of the huge intrigues when I get on the road and go these other places, is trying all this food and drinks and, just diving into the culture around in these different places around the world. And so it's just, man, it's fascinating. I love being home, but I love being at new places and seeing these, different parts of the world. We were in Singapore and Australia and, like I said, Hong Kong and Bangkok and all throughout Europe. It was cool this summer. I had my wife and daughter with me for when we played in Valderrama in Spain. So we went Spain for a tournament and then London for a tournament, had a week off, and then the British Open. And since we weren't going to come back home for that off week, so we stayed over there. We went to Paris for a few days and, spent a little more time in London and the greater area of London. It's just so cool, man. It's such a blessing and such a cool opportunity, and especially to share it with, friends and family and just seeing that there's a lot bigger world out there and there's a lot bigger problems than what we realize we have here. And so it's great for perspective. It's great it's very humbling. And it's a blast. It's something I thoroughly enjoy. And I've gotten really good at figuring out on these 10, 15-hour flights of how to enjoy it rather than be miserable in it. So it's one of those deals. I remember my first long flight was from Dallas to Sydney. And I remember thinking, this is a 15-hour flight. Like,
how am I going to get to this?
What am I going to do for 15 hours? And, now with how life has progressed, I actually really enjoy those long flights because it's like a time where I can go and like be brainless and mindless for 15 hours and watch a bunch of movies and eat a bunch of food and just hang. So, man, it's again, it's crazy.
It is crazy. You're right. Dive into the food for me. What are the big likes? What are the big dislikes? Red wine, white wine. I mean, like what do you consider something that just like, obviously everyone kind of seems to like steak, but and also, do you want to get into the chef side? Are you're interested in cooking it as well? So dive into that love of food for me.
Yeah, I wish I liked to cook. I don't have the patience for it. But man, like this last trip I was in Hong Kong, we had we had like fish liver and some kind of like cheek and all this like weird stuff that you're never going to have here. So it's just, obviously, like I said, we all like steak, we all like pasta, we all like this, the stuff that everyone likes, but it's super fascinating to be in these other areas where you're trying these different, cuisines from that part of the world. My wife and I, we did our honeymoon in Italy. And so I absolutely love Italian food, obviously pasta, but everything else. And, we kind of keep joking. We're like, if this world just keeps getting crazy, maybe we just, go buy some land in Italy and just go off the grid and go, make our own wine and raise our own cattle and, just go live like the Italians do. Cause we absolutely love, Italy. We spent time in Venice and Florence and Rome and the Amalfi and, so a pipe dream is one day to, have a place in Italy and just go live like the Italians do. And my wife makes great pasta, like homemade, handmade pasta. And so that's like when I'm home and not traveling, if she makes me some pasta when I'm home, I'm a happy man.
Food is the love language in the Gooch house, it sounds like.
That's right. Food and wine, baby.
That is awesome. What about the wine side? Red, white, like, does it matter?
All of it.
Yeah.
I'm not a rice wine person, aka sake.
Okay.
Not for me. But no, I love wine. Again, it's another cool thing about traveling the world. Like when we were in Australia on Tuesday, so I got there like a Sunday afternoon and tournament didn't start till Friday. And so Monday I went and practiced and saw the course for the first time. And I told my caddy and I was like, Tuesday, I'm going wine tasting. We were right near the Barossa Valley, which is kind of similar to like Napa Valley for Australia. And so I went and spent a full day wine tasting and just seeing what wine country in Australia was like. And so it was awesome. But no, I love it all, man. I have a bunch of red wine, a bunch of white wine at the house. And so I like it all.
Yeah. You won that week, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
Mal's home in Mal's backyard.
Yep.
That was, I remember watching draining a huge part on 18. I mean, how is Australian golf, right? Like with the super kind of knife edge bunkers to greens, and I mean, I got to get down there. It looks incredible. But how was that week, and how's the golf course, and what is Australian golf like across the world? Yeah,
so the Sand Belt is what it's called, kind of the famous golfing area of Australia, and it's, for the real like golf nerds, they'll know like that's kind of revered as some of the best golf in the world. And where we were wasn't exactly in that Sandbelt area, but it was right near it. And it was, fantastic. It's, I'm not going to say linksy because it's not linksy, but it's not like US Open, big rough, like crazy greens. Like there's runoffs around the greens, and like you said, the knife edge bunkers, and there's not much rough. And so if you miss the green, it could run, 30 yards away. And in the States, a lot of golf courses, like you're kind of, a shot, like this shot calls for this type of golf shot. And that's kind of all you can do, where in Australia, like the type of golf, like you can get creative, you can run stuff up, you can hit mid-flight stuff or high stuff. Like there's not really like a game plan of like, this is what you have to do. It's kind of like I say it like this, like you can be an artist, you can paint however you want. And that's how that style of golf is. And, it's absolutely fantastic, and obviously I'm biased because I've had success there, but it's some of my favorite golf that we've played, and just can't wait to be back.
Well, and people who know you and have known you coming up, like it seems like short game has been the strength of your game your entire life, right? Growing up not really hitting it far, and then having to chip and putt to get to the greens and all that stuff. So you get to Australia and like you just said, you can paint. You can hit any shot you kind of feel like you want to. It doesn't require one shot, and you're just like, this is fun to me, right? Whereas some people will be like, oh, they there's some indecision, right? Do I run this? Oh, I haven't hit a bump and run in 3 months.
Right.
Like do I hit kind of dead arm one and get it, or one hop and stop it? Like there's
right.
But for you, you're like, let's go, right?
Yeah.
Like I can hit any shot from you, even if you want to run a 3-wood up there and just hit the back foot and run it. But that's super exciting, and obviously I'm sure Mal was just having the week of his life.
Dude, it was so cool, and obviously Aussies are passionate for sport, passionate for golf, but passionate for their own Aussies. And so it was one of the coolest moments of the year to get up on stage to get the trophy. And obviously when we're on stage, the caddies, our caddies are with us too. And so to give him the trophy to raise up in front of the tens of thousands of fans right there, it was a storybook type of ending to a storybook type of week. And so it was just super, super cool.
So awesome. Yeah, I loved watching it, and like I said, getting that back to caddies, getting really more involved. Let's talk about Oklahoma for a little bit. With the success you've had, a lot of people may have thought to move to Jupiter, kind of the home of golf, in the States, and just play Medalist or play Bears Club in the sun all the time. And just with all the pros you got down there, tell me why you stay here. Why Oklahoma? Why not move to Jupiter and prolong your golf career? Not prolong, but further your golf career than Jupiter, and why stay in Oklahoma and deal with some of the weather that we have as well, right?
Yeah, I think in the time that we live, I don't think you have to live in a certain area to first of all, to further your career. Some guys might need that, but it's not necessary. And one of the benefits of being kind of centralized in the United States is it's easy to get anywhere in the States from this part of the country, right? Obviously the weather is not ideal, but that's not a bad thing. It's easy to get to Scottsdale. My coach is in Scottsdale. That's an easy flight. That and my trainer's in Florida. It's easy to get there. And until Live started, the off season was very short, and so basically from Thanksgiving till the 1st of January, 5-6 weeks tops was the downtime, the off season. And as we all know, in Oklahoma and this part of the world, like you still get good enough weather that time where if I wanted to go get some work in, you can always go get some work in. But it was also nice too, to in that short off season that was like, there were still enough bad days that kind of forced you away, from the course. And, we spent enough time on the golf course that it's nice to kind of be forced to not, go out there. Growing up, in the off season and in the bad months of the year, anytime the weather was good, you felt like compelled to get out there and get work in. And so that still is, in my core, my DNA. And it's like, if it's good weather, like yesterday was perfect, by the way.
It was perfect.
And I was just like, I'm kind of forcing myself right now to take a little bit of time away, and I was like feeling guilty because it's like, gosh dang it, like I need to be out there, out there getting working, and so, but no, where I rest my head, I want it to be close to family and friends, and it's easy to, if weather is bad, to get to where weather is good, it's easy to do that. And so for me, family, friends, where I raise family is more important than, getting good weather all year round.
Yeah. Well, that leads into the house, which you touched on a little bit earlier, because I'm in real estate and I like to nerd out about house and building a house and all that stuff. People listening don't have to listen to this if they don't want to, but I'm selfishly going to ask you this. Tell me about the process of designing the house, what you wanted, what you didn't want. You and Ali building your dream home, your forever home. You have a beautiful backyard with some golf stuff out there as well. We're in your hitting room. You have a gym. When I think of building a dream house, because I'm my man cave or whatever, it's going to have a golf simulator, a gym, and a nice 3-car garage, and the rest of the house I don't really worry about, right? And a putting green maybe, and that's about it. But tell me about that process. How long was the process, and just kind of the design of the house and why you decided to build it the way you did?
Yeah. So we're kind of similar in the nerdiness of houses. Like especially with my traveling lifestyle, I get to see some crazy, houses and super cool stuff. And so it's something my granddad, built homes, growing up. And so, when I went to Oklahoma State, a fun little side story, I took a visit to, the engineering architecture school there. And like the second room that I saw when I was in there was a room full of cots, like these little beds. And I was like, and Coach McGraw, the coach at the time, was with me and with the head of the school. I was like, I'm 16, 17 years old or whatever. I'm like, what's that? And the head of the school was like, oh, that's when you're pulling on all-nighters if you want to go get a nap or something in. I like look at Coach McGraw. I'm like. And he basically was like, I didn't want to like crush your dreams. He goes, but let's just say there's not a lot of golfers that take on this degree. And so in a different life, I would have loved to have been like an architect of sorts. And so I've always had an eye for it. Like I've always been aware of it. And my wife grew up, her dad kind of on the side was always doing house projects and different stuff. And so she's been around it for a while too. So collectively, we've for years talked about, building our own house one day and what that would look like. And I, am almost ashamed to say, like, I have a Pinterest with like her where we're always, we've been putting ideas of stuff together. And so this house that we built, it was a long time in the making from like our minds and like all the little details. And so, it was cool to, put all of our ideas together and actually implement it. And so, like I said, I always had a dream of having the sim room and my gym here. And, especially now with having a little one, I don't have to go to the gym to, outside the house. Like I can still stay here and, it's made life at home easier, and it was funny too. So the green outside, when I first started thinking about that, I was like, of course, being a golfer, like you want to have a putting green out there. But then I was like, you know what, when golf is done, it's almost going to be like annoying that I can't even get away from golf when golf is done. But I started thinking more about it, and with having a little one and then, another one on the way, it's like, man, it'd be really cool if this would kind of ignite something in them to want to be a part of golf. And so that's ended up being the reason I decided to put the green in back there was for my kids. And so it was about 2 or 3 months ago, we were in Greenbrier for a tournament and then in Jersey for a tournament. It was the first time I had been away from my girls for a while. And so I'm FaceTiming them after the round every day. And it was the first time my daughter was like, Daddy, we golf when you home. And I was like, okay, that just made that whole thing worth it, because my wife and daughter were out there on the green when she called and was talking like that, and I was like, all right, that just made it worth it, and beyond being out there with buddies, having a drink or two, putting and hanging out, like that call alone was like, okay, I'm glad we did this.
Yeah, that's a super cool dad moment, right? Like all the dads listening to this are just like, oh, so good.
Yeah.
No, it's right. And the one thing, like, same as you, like I love, the first thing you do when you walk into a house is you walk through the front door. And the first thing I noticed when we were walking up to your house was how sick that front door is.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah.
And how it just kind of opens the way it does, and how it's just, glass and steel and it's wide. And again, people listening are like, why are you talking about a front door? But it fits the aesthetic of the house, right? And everything. And it's, it's the first thing you do. You open a door, and then it sets the tone. And, like I said, you have your entryway and your wine wall, which is going to be full at some point, obviously on the left. And, it's,
the front door was like, that was one of my, like you said, gym, golf sim, putting, like all that. But throughout the other parts of the house, like the front door was one of like the first things I was like, because like you said, that's like the first thing you see, or, first thing getting into the house, and, it's this big single pivot door, and you just don't often see those, especially in Oklahoma. And so through my travels, and specifically, I'll never forget, there was this one house in Scottsdale we went to. It was twice as big as that door, by the way. And I just remember thinking, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. I was like, babe, because my wife was with me, I was like, babe, we're going to have a sweet front door.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to happen. So, yes.
That's awesome. Was there any other non-negotiables you had when you were building, or any ones that you or Ali had at the time?
Oh, yeah, tons. Yeah, no. Fortunately, we are aesthetically, we have the same tastes and same likes. And so it was a really easy process for us, because we have the same style, if you will. And so one of the other like dream things was have you seen the back window glass doors, like when it's open up? Yeah, you saw it. Like that was the front door, and that were like the two things I was like, I want to build the house around these two parts, like the back opening up all the way as if you're in Palm Springs or something. And so those were the two things I was like, I don't care about everything, but those are two things I want to make sure those are focal points, and those are things that we're going to build the house around, basically.
Yeah, it's sick. Love it. It looks awesome. I love bringing this up because this was a really good week for me. The Ryder Cup was fantastic for me, watching it here for the first time. Well, not first time, but watching it, waking up in the morning, seeing Europeans up 4-0, 5 or whatever it was. But you have a really good friend that dominated on the US side that week, and that was Max. Mm-hmm. And so, and I hope that one day, whatever happens in the future, that Live PGA Tour figures itself out and you are eligible to play on the Ryder Cup. But how was that, watching a good buddy of yours, really kind of like make it, right? And he's really kind of excelled this year. Max has had a great year. Mm-hmm. Obviously won in Africa recently. But what's that like? And obviously, like, the team is getting destroyed, but you're watching your buddy out there play for the country, and he's having the week of his life. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, at this point, I don't have because I have so many friendships and relationships with people within the game of golf, that week, it makes it easier for me when America loses, because like I have friends on both sides, and so I more so that week was cheering on buddies than teams. So my 15-year-old self would have been devastated, where now myself, it at least takes the emotions out of it a little bit, which for me is nice, because I wouldn't be so pissed about it. But no, it was obviously so cool watching Max and our kind of journey as friends and colleagues, and in this golf world. It's been so cool to see him being a absolute phenomenal college golfer and national champion, and just for him to go from being one of the best college golfers in the country to being a professional golfer. And his first years as a pro, he had some ups and downs, and to see him overcome that and then become the golfer that he is, and to be, probably the best player of the Ryder Cup, maybe of both sides that week. It's just super cool. And, for the last few years, we had talked about, playing in Rome together, and unfortunately it didn't work out, but it was still so cool to see him just thrive in that environment. And, I obviously knew that he was going to have that chance, and to talk to buddies about like what a week he had. It's cool, not only as a guy who's competed with him, but just as a guy that, has kind of, our careers have kind of grown in a kind of similar way, in a similar time frame. And it's cool to see such success by, one of your best buddies who's kind of in a similar time period in their life,
Yeah, it's right. Like, I mean, I remember us talking, the first time we did a podcast, it was years and years ago. And, you mentioned that, it would be great. And you guys are buddies. And, obviously you guys have had success at the same times. It's just, it's just kind of gone its separate way because of the different tours. But hopefully it comes back together, and it seems like they'll figure it out at some point. With obviously going to live and do all that stuff, sponsors changed, right? There was dropping of sponsors, new sponsors. Time for you to give your new sponsors a shout out, because tell me about them. What's it been like having, dealing with all that stuff and the new sponsors coming on board, and I mean, you got obviously a great team around you. So tell me about that. What's that like?
It's been really, really fascinating to kind of be able to pull the curtain back on the business side of professional golf and kind of see the inner workings, everything from TV to sponsors to, agents and managers and just the whole thing. That's one thing this chaotic time over the last couple of years it's just illuminated kind of the inefficiencies of professional golf, and it's also given me and a lot of guys within Live kind of a behind the scenes look at like how things work, beyond just trying to make birdies. And so for me, kind of being interested in, something aside from just making birdies, like from the structure of business, it's been really, really cool to kind of see how it all works. And, it's obviously an interesting time. But it's, a buddy said it really well. He goes, this is going to be a crash course of entrepreneurship and a startup of a new sports league it's going to be like a case study for Harvard business 10, 20, 30 years down the road. And so as I've said for a while now, it's been very cool to kind of have a seat at the table to see how things work, and how that partnerships and relationships have kind of unfolded and come together through this whole deal. It's there's a lot of work to do, and there's so much that goes into the professional golf world. Mm-hmm. It's been very, very interesting to see. And obviously people have, from a sponsorship perspective, have been a little apprehensive with Live because of all the chaos that's been going on, and hopefully that will continue to subside, and people will realize at the end of the day we're not performing heart surgery. Mm-hmm. We're playing golf. This is meant to be entertainment. This is meant to be fun, and it's not meant to be as serious as what some people have made it out to be. One of my buddies said that. He said, guys, I don't know why everyone's getting so serious about it. Like, this isn't life and death. This is just golf at the end of the day. And you love the passion that the fans have, and that's great. And I think part of what has made this time so interesting and fueled the energy of golf is we haven't had those villains and heroes and that story that you need in sports to kind of help get people going. And we have that fuel now within golf of we've got the heroes and the villains, Yeah. And Liv's got a lot of heroes and villains, within. And right. So, yeah, man, it's such a fascinating time, and it's going to be so cool to continue to see how it all unfolds, because like you said, it's what's best for everybody. If there's if some of the bad blood and some of the animosity kind of leaves the system, and we figure out how to kind of all work together in some capacity.
Yeah. What has been kind of the big takeaway then for you over the last 2 years of being involved in Live? Obviously, your golf has thrived, but just for you, it doesn't have to be on the golf side. It could be on the life and business side too, but like just something that, really, because obviously there's a reason you've excelled. Obviously you've been played fantastic golf, but as we all know, like it's the mind that needs a lot more help, more than probably the golf game. Anyone can stand up there and hit a golf ball, and what people don't know that watch professional golf is literally anybody in that field can win every week. It's just the guy who's got it between the ears at the time. So I mean, what has been the biggest takeaway, and what have you learned the most then from those 2 years?
It's not like I learned anything new. My journey, I've talked about this a bit, like my journey with my career has been kind of a brick by brick, step by step. And I've built this house of a career, if you will, brick by brick and step by step. And, guys like Victor Hovland and, Jordan Spieth and, Colin Morikawa, these superstars over the last, 10, 15 years that have come out firing right out the gate. Those players are so great, and they've made that immediate quick success. They've made that look normal, when in reality, if you look at the history of golf, it's not normal for guys to have such success so early. And so I just haven't fallen within that type of a player. My career, kind of similar to Max, like, we've had some ups and downs to then get to a point where, I believe, we're, some of the best players in the world, and it took a little bit more time than what, everyone thinks it should, and so for me, I think my success, within Live, there's a few, of the factors of, like we talked about, whether it's the caddies and everyone kind of, logistically it being simpler, or, playing, not as often, playing 14 events a year rather than 26 events a year or whatever. And so I think a little bit of those nuances have helped, but more so, I think if you look at the trajectory of my career, I've continued to improve year after year. And, before joining Live that season on tour, I was around fifth or so on the FedEx Cup, and so, I was playing really good golf already. And as you play more and more good golf, that confidence just keeps building. That belief just keeps building. And so it's kind of just one of those, matching of, the nuances of the differences between the PGA Tour and Live, me being kind of more comfortable in that environment maybe. And then also the strength and skills of my games continuing to improve, and just being more confident in myself as a golfer, and so it's just comfort and confident in those moments on the golf course that have just, continued to grow and helped me, succeed over the last couple of years,
Yeah, no, it all makes sense. It all comes together, and I think you did a great job putting it that way too. It's, it's cliche quote, but Rome wasn't built in a day, right? It's like just building your game like a house and bringing it together, and then once you find that confidence and you settle in, it's like, all right, that's rock and roll.
One of my favorite rappers, Big Sean, he has a line in a song. He goes, "It took me 10 years to be an overnight success." Yeah. And all of a sudden it's like people see someone being successful, they think they've figured something out, and it's some magic, fairy dust that you just sprinkle on it, and all of a sudden you're successful. It just doesn't happen like that. It took time, and like I said, brick by brick, and Rome wasn't built in a day. Is spot on.
Yeah. So finishing up foundation, let's talk about that. What's the plan for the new year, plan for the foundation for next year, and just kind of, you had a big AJG event, is that how you say it? AJG event at Gladia this year, which was great to see. And obviously your coach flew in for it, and you guys did a kind of a, like a seminar kind of talk or guest speaker or whatever it was after. I'm sure the kids loved that. But going forward, like how much, obviously you want to do more, and you can allocate more time to it and resources now. What do you want to do with it? What's the plan for next year?
Yeah, I mean, I think continuing to do what we've done just in bigger ways. We want to continue to support Oklahoma golf, junior golf within Oklahoma, and give kids more opportunity. And obviously golf, as I've said, numerous times, it's been such a blessing to me, but I don't want our sole focus as a foundation to be just in golf. And so, we're always on the lookout for different organizations and different causes that we believe in. And a couple of them that we've attached to really closely is Positive Tomorrows and Hope is Alive. And so we will absolutely continue to focus on those causes. And we want to continue to support, this community, this state in whatever way we see, best fit. And so, obviously the next generation is what my focus is going to be. How do we give the next generation, these kids, how do we give them more of an opportunity to uplift themselves, to uplift their community? And that's going to be the focus. And I don't know what that looks like. I don't, in different ways. I do know, like I said, golf will still be a focus. Helping with Positive Tomorrows and Hope is Live will continue to be a focus, and we always have our eyes and ears peeled to different areas to see what else can we help with, who else can we help, and so it's going to be a focus. And like you said, it's not only from a resources but from a time perspective, it's great to be in a spot to where it can continue to be a focus.
No, for sure. Well, mate, it's been a pleasure. Thanks so much for sharing some stories, inviting me into the house. Congratulations on obviously a fantastic couple of years and winning the league this year. And then also wish you and Allie a happy, healthy pregnancy for baby Carter. Got a boy coming, which I'm sure you're thrilled about. But yeah, man, I really appreciate you, and pumped to see your success and excited to see how the foundation goes here and the lives that you change going forward. And we just keep checking in every couple of years.
I was going to say, I'm already ready for the next one.
So for people listening, I will catch you next episode. Cheers. Hope you guys enjoyed that great episode. Thank you so much for listening. As always, huge shout out to our sponsors, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, sharing Oklahoma story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com and follow them on Instagram for daily updates at oklahomahof. Our other sponsor, the Chickasaw Nation, amazing sponsor. They do amazing things for the state, and they're always sponsoring something in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma, and without their support, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. And our third sponsor is Diffie Ford Lincoln down in El Reno. Now, this one makes me so happy because these guys are great friends of mine, play a lot of golf together. I've bought my cars from them, do most of my oil changes down there, have a cup of coffee, hang out down in El Reno. It's a good spot to go. And not only are they great friends, but they provide a great service. So for over 60 years, third generation family owned Oklahoma business down in El Reno. They're also in Bethany as well. So people in the Bethany area know the Diffies really well. But if you're looking for anything new, used, Ford, Lincoln, or whatever, I'm sure they could find anything you want. Check them out, diffieford.net, and then on Instagram at diffiefordlincoln. This podcast is brought to you by the Oklahoma Beef Council. On behalf of Oklahoma's 50,000 beef farming and ranching families, we are working hard every day to bring high quality beef to your table. To learn more, visit oklabeef.org. That's oklabeef.org, linked below.
Thank you for listening. We are inspired by those around us and hope that you are too. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review so we can keep telling your stories. For more great Oklahoma content, follow This Is Oklahoma on Facebook and Instagram.